Hello friends, fellow music lovers, Wes here checking in with another episode of The Vinyl Survivor. This is where I talk about albums I recently listened to that were, for the most part, new to my ears, stuff that I pulled out of my inbox or new purchases. I just tell you what I thought of each one, give you a little bit of background on each one, and tell you whether they're going to be staying in the collection or not. So that's the Survivor aspect of it all. Hope you all are doing well. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get into this episode. Almost all 70s today. Doing a little bit of a retro thing here, I guess you could say. The first thing we have here is the third studio album from Harry Chapin titled Short Stories from 1973. And the songs contained within this album are very much story kind of songs, character pieces. Pretty interesting, you know, in a lot of the ways along the lines of, you know, a James Taylor or Cat Stevens or something like that. Very traditional early 70s singer-songwriter type stuff here. There is a bit of orchestration, some strings on here. It does come across a little bit cheesy at times, but overall a pretty decent album, pretty enjoyable album. I love the album cover artwork here also. Just an awesome picture if you have the chance to just see this and just look at the picture for a while. Rob White is the artist on that. Just a lot of things going on in here. I love how just all kinds of different things, like this guy's hair turns into the wood of the guitar body, and it's pretty cool. This is a gatefold, and the lyrics to the songs are laid out as sort of like paragraphs of a story, I guess you could say. Pictures there. That is on the Elektra Butterfly label. Very beautiful label. Pretty good. There's one hit song on here, WOLD, if you remember that song. That one's on here, and I believe that's pretty much it for this album. This is before Cats in the Cradle. A decent album from Harry Chapin. I'm going to be keeping this one in the collection for at least a little while. I want to listen to it a few more times, so I'm just going to file it away and pull it out. Pull it out every now and then. It may be deleted at some point, but for right now I'm going to hang on to this one. I enjoyed it. It's a good piece of 70s singer-songwriter music. Alright, next up we have a piece of jazz here. This is the third collaboration between Herb Ellis and Joe Pass. It's titled Two for the Road from 1974 on Pablo Records. This is their third and final album recording together, and this is their only album recorded just as a duo. So just, if you love finger-picking jazz guitar, these guys just go back and forth trading licks and stuff. This is an awesome album. If you're into jazz guitar, definitely highly recommend this one. Just some awesome jazz guitar work, and I'm a lover of Joe Pass. Don't know a whole lot about Herb Ellis. He's a little bit of an older jazz artist. Joe Pass was kind of the new guy, I guess. But I really like his work, and so anytime I see an album with Joe Pass's name on it, I pick it up. I'm glad I grabbed this one. Just an awesome set here. If you just want to hear some great guitar playing, this is one to check out. As I said, this is on the Pablo label, and their label changed over the years, but this is sort of a tan colored label. So yeah, that's Herb Ellis, Joe Pass, Two for the Road. As I said, highly recommended, and this one's absolutely going to be staying in the collection. This is a really cool one I'm going to be going to a lot when I want to hear some great jazz guitar. Alright, next up, staying in the jazz genre, and another one with Joe Pass's name on it, but he is not the headliner here. The headliner here is Stephane Grappelli. This is Stephane Grappelli, Joe Pass, and Niels, Henning, Orsted, Pedersen at Tivoli Gardens, Copenhagen, Denmark. Just an awesome set. Stephane plays the violin, Joe Pass plays the guitar, of course, and Niels plays the bass. So just a really cool trio. Very swingy jazz kind of stuff, but has a sort of worldly vibe to it. It's not necessarily an Americanized swing jazz, but it has sort of the swing jazz sensibilities. But really good trio here, really fun. Stephane Grappelli takes the reins of the whole thing, and he's just showing off throughout the whole thing, and he's awesome. So if you love great violin playing, this is another one to check out. I really like this one a lot. There's Joe Pass, and there is Niels. This is from 1980 is when this was released, but it was recorded in 1979. I don't know if I said that, so that puts us in the 70s, technically, I guess you could say. And once again, on the Pablo Records label, as I said, their label changed throughout the years, so this is more of like a late 70s, early 80s label from Pablo, the red and white there. And they did a really good job with some great releases from Pablo. So when you see these Pablo releases, and they're cheap, go ahead and pick them up and give them a try, because they have some really great stuff on there. This one is another one staying in the collection. Okay, next up, moving on with some more jazz, but a little bit different here. This is Betty Carter with Betty Carter, self-titled album here. It is a live album recorded at the Village Vanguard in 1970 on her own label. It's Betcar Productions, which is part of Verve, I believe. So yeah, the story behind this is she originally recorded a live album, and the producer stole the tape, and she eventually got the tape back, but in the meantime, she recorded this album, another second live set, and released this so that the producer that stole the tape couldn't sort of strike first, I guess. Betty Carter is sort of a scat jazz vocalist. Definitely not my thing. I struggled with this quite a bit to get through it. Really did not enjoy it. I'm not really big on sort of the scat jazz vocal kind of thing, that kind of feel. It doesn't do anything for me, really. It was interesting to hear this. Not going to be keeping this one. It's just really not my thing at all. Custom Betcar label, but as I said, this is pretty sure this is part of Verve Records. So that's Betty Carter, self-titled, a live recording from the Village Vanguard in 1970. Scat jazz, not really my thing. Not going to be staying in the collection. All right, moving on. Still in the 70s though, and still in the jazz genre, but another thing completely different. I should title this episode "Jazz, Jazz, and More Jazz" or something like that. But this is the second album from Leon Redbone from 1977. This is titled Double Time. Leon Redbone does very much a ragtime jazz sort of sound, bit folk music at times. He has a very gravelly, rough voice. It's another style of music that I just really struggle with, is ragtime kind of sounding stuff. It's just, it grates on me, unfortunately. It was another cool listen, but not something for me. It's just not something I would ever want to listen to again. It was interesting to hear, and that is in the Warner Palm Tree label. So yeah, it's Leon Redbone, Double Time. Not going to be staying in the collection. Okay, and then we have the debut album from Leon Redbone. Of course, they were purchased at the same time. These are thrift store kind of records. I pulled them out of somewhere, I believe. This is his debut album, On the Tracks, from 1975, and again, very much a ragtime jazz kind of sound that it's just, I don't know, it just grates on me. I don't know why. I can't explain it. It's just not something I can enjoy. And the Warner Palm Tree label again there, being the mid-70s. So Leon Redbone, On the Tracks, also not staying in the collection. All right, next up, finally moving away from the jazz genre, get a little bit of variety in here. This is a comedy album from the team at National Lampoon. This is titled Goodbye Pop from 1975. A very cool comedy sketch kind of album. Bill Murray, Gilda Radner, Paul Schaefer, and Christopher Guest are on here. This is of interest to people who are into music. There are a lot of musical related sketches on here. There's the history of the Beatles, which is really funny, and then there is pretty much the highlight for me is opener to side 2. It starts off with the history of Neil Young, which is just hilarious, and then it goes into a parody song titled Southern California Brings Me Down. It's sort of a a parody of several Neil Young songs, like I guess you could say. Hilarious, hilarious stuff. This is a great album. I really like this a lot. A fun sort of sit down and listen kind of thing. Harkens back to the old radio shows, I guess you could say. So if you see this one, pick it up. Even if you're not necessarily into collecting comedy records, this one has some playability for music nerds. Definitely some funny music related stuff on here. It's on the orange Epic label. It looks like it has a Columbia stamp in the dead wax, so probably really made by Columbia. So yeah, National Lampoon's Goodbye Pop staying in the collection. Okay, the next thing I have to talk about for today is actually the only thing that's not from the 70s. This is from 2007, so there's a 7 in there. This is Star's 4th album from 2007. Stars are an indie pop band from Toronto, Canada. Another one of those sort of large bands. They don't necessarily sound like Arcade Fire, but they have that sort of big indie pop band. Lots and lots of instruments, lots of layering, lots of interesting sounds going on. Very poppy at times. On this album, they're going a little bit more towards the pop sensibility from what I understand. I haven't really explored their catalog too much, even though I did just order their new album. It was just released in October, so I'm looking forward to getting that in. I understand from what I've listened to, that one is very electronic and poppy. But this is a great album. Mark Dr. Deadwax turned me on to this one. Just some beautiful indie pop, indie rock kind of music. You know, if you like Arcade Fire and stuff like that, this would be a great one to check out if you haven't already. And I actually first checked this out on CD. There's a CD version of it. This one actually came with a DVD of sort of the making of the album and a tour they were doing at the time. Really interesting. If you have the chance, this cost me like $3 or $4 on Amazon. If you can get a copy of this with the DVD in it, I recommend getting this too. Is that DVD's worth seeing? It's a full length documentary. Really good stuff. So anyway, just a beautiful, beautiful album. Very, very much a total package kind of thing. Something that's meant to be not necessarily a concept album, but an album that just flows really well, plays through really well, has some themes that flow through it. Just great stuff. And they are on the Arts and Crafts label, 2 LP set, nice heavy vinyl, black vinyl. So yeah, Stars in Our Bedroom After the War, highly recommended if you like the indie pop, indie rock kind of stuff. Can't say enough good things about that one. Alright, going back into the 70s here. We just took one little brief step out of the 70s, but we're back. This is Jackson Browne's The Pretender from 1976. This is his 4th studio album, released after his wife's suicide, so it's a very somber, introspective kind of album. And an album I just love it for some reason. I don't know why. It feels warm to me. It feels comforting to me for some reason. Just beautiful singer-songwriter type stuff here. Features Here Come Those Tears Again, which you probably hear on radio sometimes, and The Pretender, the title track. Got insert with lyrics on it. And then this is on the Asylum Records label. And this is actually an upgrade copy for me. I do already have this in the collection. Just always on the lookout for a nicer copy, and this one's pretty nice. Yeah, if you like that 70s singer-songwriter type stuff, you probably already have this. It's a pretty common album, an easy one to find in thrift stores and dollar bins. An album I really like, and I play it from time to time, so this one is staying in the collection, and a nice album to me. I don't know. I like it. Alright, and last but not least, closing out the 1970s with 1979's Damn the Torpedoes from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Definitely a classic album. This is one of the ones partially recorded at Sound City, so it's been made even more famous by the sort of the Sound City legacy, and a really great album from Tom Petty. It took me a while to get into Tom Petty just because he's from Gainesville. Growing up, I always heard Tom Petty stories constantly about how so-and-so and played in a band with Tom Petty, and so went to a party at Tom Petty's house or whatever, and it's just Tom Petty this and Tom Petty that. So I was kind of burnt out on him. I've grown to appreciate his music, and I really do like this one. Of course, this one features Refugee, Here Comes My Girl, Don't Do Me Like That. Quite a commercially successful album from him, and a really strong album, really strong music. Insert air. Some photography, a few little notes there. And there is the album on Backstreet MCA Records. Of course, this is when they got sold to MCA, and he had to declare bankruptcy to get the rights to his songs, or some sort of story like that. Kind of an interesting story, but he did in the end get the rights to his songs, and it was definitely a smart move for him, because it's made him a lot of money, I'm sure, over the years. So it's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Damn the Torpedoes, going in the collection. Had a copy of this previously, and it ended up being damaged. Had some bad surface noise or skips or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but finally found a really nice copy of this for not a lot of money. I think I paid 75 cents for it at the Friends of the Library book sale, so that was a good find. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Vinyl Survivor. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. I do at least one of these a week. And I thank you for watching. Thanks for any comments, questions, leave them below. And we'll see you again next time. Cheers.